No problem. And we're back again. And believe it or not, having the same problem I had Friday, but I'm prepared with a workaround this time, of sorts. Hope you're doing well. You know, everybody kind of had their shot at the long weekend, and you know, while you're in here, if you could pull Microsoft up there for me, that'd be awesome. You know, there's this whole, and I played in bands, man, my whole life, starting at like age 14. I mean, like, you know, parents writing notes to get me out of school early on Friday kind of thing. So, you know, the corporate approaches to vacation time and breaks and all that stuff. You can go ahead and okay.
I'm not sure how to do it.
One of the things I learned, you know, when I kind of moved to the dark side and took a gig as an executive at a record company, is that there's a whole art to navigating long weekends. For me, you know, long weekends were just, you know, you played 4 nights instead of 5 nights or whatever. But so here's the thing that I learned. So, you know, in addition to, if you got a natural long weekend, right? You know, you got a Friday, so then you tack a Thursday onto it to get an extra day. But here's the real key. Instead of coming back into town, you know, Saturday or Sunday, no, take Monday off also. Travel back on Monday. That's, you know, that was the recharge return trip. But at any rate, I'm, you know, and I'm going to try something different here. We had some fun last week. My whole, you know, my opening segment is going to be about my experience last Friday. Because it was, again, oddly enough, the same issue that I'm having right now. I had Friday. So at that time, though, let me just give you the inside baseball. You know, well, first off, it's Dez in for Matt, and Matt's going to be in, you know, for we have this whole succession plan in place. But
he's driving the drive today.
There you go, driving the drive, which is, you know what, that's a daunting slot because it's longer, number one, and it's also in that, and everybody's different. You know, I used to be a night owl, and then the owl part went away. But, you know, everybody's different. But at that time of day, dude, my body wants to go into doze mode. So it's like, it's a longer shift at a point in the day when my body wants to like just kind of reset. So anyway, so Matt's up later on. So, you know, it's your MTV refugee, peripheral visionary, and tour guide to the far side. Here with you again today. And I added to that last week. You know, I added to that. I'm also your witness protection program talk show host. You know, I pop up every few months in a different location. Witness protection, you know, which keeps us all on our toes. So first and foremost, though, I want to apologize for last Friday, even though, you know, I'm trying to avoid a repeat of it right now. I felt, and, you know, it's one of those things when you get discombobulated, you feel like, you know, you're trying to land on the asteroid in Armageddon. You know what I mean? It feels that way to you. So I felt like it was the worst opening 30 minutes in talk radio show history, because I was just trying to, find a way to pull these notes up on this computer and find my script on that computer and again, it just seems like and it feels like. But if I could, just because I'm that way, man, I'm kind of a perfectionist that way. If I could, I'd just give us all back the time. I'm so sorry. Here's your 30 minutes back. You know what I mean? But, and here's the deal. Sometimes there are reasons, but there are never excuses. And, there were reasons, things kind of went sideways, but there are never any excuses. In other words, you gotta find your way forward and land on your feet no matter what. But a little bit of inside baseball as to how that whole thing kind of came about and why it unraveled the way it did. So, I script my entire show. Now, I don't memorize lines and recite it, but I script it. And the purpose of that is to establish a blueprint and to build a track to run on. But it's more, it's not like an indie track. It's more like, something out in the desert. You know what I mean? You can stay inside the flags and do what you want if you want, but, there's room to, hey, let's see what's over there. So I script my show. I mean the whole show. And there are spaces where it breathes and, if I got folks coming in for interviews or whatever. But so if I can't pull up, as was the case again today, if I can't pull up my script, I'm like, I'm like a pilot, instrument-rated pilot, and I'm flying, and my instrument panel is blank, and it's pitch black. And that is, that's kind of what I found myself up against Friday. So it was a bit daunting. It was a bit weird. But at the same time, like I said, the script is more, it's a set of guidelines as opposed to, whatever else. So, I go off-road and, do that whenever I have to, whenever I feel like it. Because, I like to riff. I like to rock. No, I like to riff so that, and that's so weird, dude. So that in a situation where, the circumstances call for it, you operate in real time. And you do what you got to do because, it's live radio and it's live for a reason, and you want to keep it live and not, on life support, ideally. So anyway, that's kind of the backstory, the inside story on last Friday. I hope everybody had a great remainder of their proper weekend, and you're back in. And it's always so noticeable. Because all the parking lots are fuller and obviously the traffic is heavier and, people are a little bit different, first day back. And I'm not even talking about folks, I'm talking about just folks out there in the highways and the byways and, some folks are happy to be back at work. Yes, those people do exist. Some people are happy to be back at work. Other folks, not so much, but that's okay. See, I find that my mantra, my rule to live by is find out as early in life as you can, find out what you are, and then go do what you are. Because if your vocation, avocation, whatever the case might be, if it's in the wheelhouse of what you are, when you do what you are, you're always in life mode. But if you're doing, what Mama and them did, or, doing what they told you would, this will be a good, reliable field to be in for the next 20. Well, you're going to be one of those people that doesn't look happy on the freeway on the Monday after a 3-day weekend. Do what you are. Get out there and do what you are. That's what I'm talking about. Do what you are. So, while I've been running off of the mouth, I've also been getting some things pulled up, and I may wait. Oh, wait, there it is. I was going to say I may wait till the break, but, I'm actually feeling pretty sassy right now because I managed to do something, and I managed to walk and chew gum at the same time. And I'm feeling pretty good about that. So here's the deal, and I want to make sure that I finish this before we go into break. In terms of that whole thing, and just feeling really crappy about Friday and about things melting down. From my perspective, things melted down. Now, one of the things I also teach young performers is it's the never let them see you sweat principle. It's if something goes wrong on stage, don't say anything about it and don't show it. Never get that look on your face like, oh, crap, I broke a string. Never do that. Play it off like you intended. On this part of the song, I go from 6 strings to 5 strings. It always looked like it was on purpose. In fact, I used to do this thing, and I do some shows every once in a while. I'll still do it if the situation calls for it. If I make a mistake, there's no doubt about that. Dude, that was a mistake. I'll play it a second time. I'll play that bad boy a second. Wow, that was purposeful. That's bold, going into tritones and keys that don't exist. Well,
if you walk off stage and you think the show is horrible and the audience loved it, who's right?
The audience is right. And it's only the audience that matters. But on the other hand, the audience of one, and Bell hit it right on the head. See, Bell hasn't been in the business as long as I have, but he has the savvy of someone who's been in the business longer than me.
That's just your way of trying to make up for what you said.
Totally. I'm still digging out of that hole, dude. I'm still digging out of that hole. But that's so right on the money. Just, because at the end of the day, it's not... We get all wrapped up in how the show felt. Oh, that felt great. Sometimes shows feel great and look like crap. That's why years ago, I as a producer, when I had the power to say so, it's like, no, we're not starting sessions at 10 o'clock at night because everybody feels groovy, playing into the wee hours. But you listen to that stuff the next day, and it sounds like it was, recorded by field mice on hallucinogenic drugs. It didn't work. So, at any rate. Can you tell today's one of those off-road days? So anyway, what I'm trying to get to, and I'm going to get there, is that here's what the big problem was for me on Friday. I got out of my lane, and I didn't do what I was. I always say do what you are, but foolishly I did what I'm not on Friday. Got shook, got discombobulated. You got to chase your sweet spot. You got to know your sweet spot and chase your sweet spot. As a guitar player, you got to, even when you're just finding out how to tune the dadgum thing, you got to find your sweet spot. It might be, okay, it's this guy's tone and it's this dude's, feel or this dude's speed or, this woman, because, Ariantha, there's some killer women playing guitar these days. But, you got to know your sweet spot. So when you hit it, and you don't live there. Nobody lives in their sweet spot. But when you hit it, that was it. That was it. I may have been passing through, but I hit my sweet spot. So I didn't want to be too heavy on the holiday weekend. And so I got out of my sweet spot. Now, by the way, and I'm going to say this and then we'll take a break and continue. I apply the same thing to radio. You got to know where your sweet spot is. You know what the sweet spot is that I'm chasing on radio, Bill? And this is, typically schizophrenic if you've known me for any time at all. It's Rush Limbaugh meets, what's a dude? William F. Buckley and Dave Chappelle. My sweet spot, those three people. And every once in a while, I feel like I hit that. And I know that's a bizarre, but Rush Limbaugh, William F. Buckley, and Dave Chappelle, if you can hit that dude, you have caused all three cherries to line up. Because that's like, woohoo! Somebody give me a bucket. It's jackpot time. Dez Dickerson back with you on a Monday. In for Matt Murphy, who's in for Brian Wilson, who may be in for, Mike Wallace. I don't know. Well, the train keeps rolling. But we're going to take a break. We'll be right back. 99.7 Super Talk, WTN.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lockboxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Matt Murphy for Members Nutrition. I want to tell you about the Members Nutrition difference, and I want to encourage you to go over to the Members Nutrition website. Number one, they believe at Members Nutrition that they can sell vitamins and supplements at a lower cost point, and they're doing it every single day at membersnutrition.com. Number two, they want to make these products right here in the United States of America, not from some overseas company, and they do that every single day. I encourage you to go to membersnutrition.com. You'll get 50% off your purchase price at checkout. You don't have to put in any codes. Just go to membersnutrition.com. Once again, membersnutrition.com.
Hey, it's Dan Mandis, and I am so glad that California Closets has fixed my closet catastrophe. After exact measuring and planning, they came over and got to work. Yeah, once it was all plotted out on their 3D CAD system, the pieces are measured, cut, and precisely installed into my space. It was clean, fast, and professional, and above all, my new closets look and function great. Now, this was my dormer, and now this is my new dormer thanks to California Closets. Look at all of this added space for shirts and shoes, you name it, and it is cut so precisely, simply amazing. And my old closet that has now been reborn as the ultimate in style and functionability, making the best use of the space that I had. They can work on just about anything: bedrooms, garages, home offices, closets, pantries, and so much more. Find them online, CaliforniaClosets.com, and see what they can do for you. You can schedule a free design consultation. Mention my name, CaliforniaClosets.com.
President Biden continuing to adamantly express he's not going anywhere. And a man killed in a weekend motorcycle accident in Clarksville has been identified. We'll have those stories at 12:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Chic, baby. I mean, to this day, that not just that guitar riff, but it's that feel. And Nile Rodgers, and Nile is a friend, and I don't want to name drop, but every once in a while I just got to mention Nile is a friend, and that dude has had more hits than Mike Tyson. So as I was saying, and I'm gonna kind of wrap up the riff from the first part of the segment, but the mistake that I made was I got out of my lane. I did not do what I was. So as a result, it fell flat. It fell flatter than the Hindenburg, and but you learn from those things. So here's the lesson in that is I really don't do lighthearted well. It was a conference. You think you're a professional. You can simulate it, but now I found out I don't do lighthearted well. Irony, yes. Lighthearted, no. And in trying to be lighthearted, and the shtick was a good idea. The whole count your fingers Friday on the day after the 4th of July. The shtick was solid. I just don't know that I was the guy for that. Count your fingers. But tried to make light of foolish fireworks mishaps. Had a lot of great calls, actually. A lot of great stories. There's some crazy stuff that people have done, which is what we were, counting on. But it also turns out, and I want to, kind of as we come to the bottom of the hour, I want to get this in. Also turns out there were some very serious ones. There's an article that we're going to pull up that was in the Blaze over the weekend. And the title of the article is Tragic Video Shows Last Moments of South Carolina Man in Uncle Sam costume who died after placing large firework on his head. And there was also a Tennessee man, of course, killed by a firework. when it exploded near his chest. But the South Carolina man died suddenly on the 4th of July after placing a large firework on his head. See, I'm still not convinced that the word firework is a word. I think that we all got rope-a-doped by, what's her name's hit, Baby, You're a Firework. Yeah, anyway. So, around 10:30 p.m. on Thursday, Alan Ray McGrew was enjoying the 4th of July festivities at a local neighborhood block party in Somerville, about 35 miles north of Charleston. The 41-year-old father had allegedly been drinking, well, you think, that day, and placed a large firework on his head. Again, alcohol, copious amounts of alcohol and powerful fireworks do not go together. His wife initially thought he was merely posing with the firework in an attempt to entertain onlookers. He was holding this firework over his top hat. I thought he was just showboating before he set it on the ground. I didn't realize he'd already lit it, his wife told the New York Post. The firework exploded on McGrew's head and he was said to have died instantly from the injuries from the explosion. The last few moments of his life were caught on video and posted on. So who does that? Quick, I got to post it. Well, people do that. People are weird. And, the video shows him dressed in an Uncle Sam costume and dancing in the yard. He's described as a patriot who loved Independence Day, was excited about the recent marriage engagement of his son. I mean, life was looking up. He was living the good life. But man, that's a real cautionary tale and a sober moment. So that's kind of more in my lane. That's not lighthearted. But we're gonna listen. We're back in our lane today. We're on a mission to separate the clear thinkers from the Kool-Aid drinkers, and to make America think again. Then we're going to take a break.
Good afternoon. We are coming up on 12:32. I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. Mostly sunny, getting hot, 89 degrees on Music Row. A complete forecast coming up. President Biden airing his frustration with those that demand he leave the presidential race. Today on MSNBC's Morning Joe, the president defended his record, calling for critics to hit the campaign trail with him and daring anyone who wants to challenge him on to do so at the upcoming national convention, the Democratic National Convention. So, again, he just remains very defiant.
I'm not going to explain any more about what I should or shouldn't do. I am running.
Back here in Middle Tennessee, police have identified a motorcyclist killed in Clarksville over the weekend as a 30-year-old man, Nicholas Smith, who was an active duty soldier at Fort Campbell. The motorcycle accident occurring on Ted Crozier Senior Boulevard at Weatherly Drive. This happened about 9:30 on Saturday night. He was taken to Tenova Healthcare in Clarksville for his injuries, but sadly he passed away. That is the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
Oh, yeah. I love that song. You know how one of the things that music does, music and food, interestingly, but I digress. A song can take you back to a moment in life in ways that supersede time and space. You know, sometimes you'll hear a song and there's a moment from when you were like 8 years old and suddenly like you're there. So anyway, that particular song, my oldest son's freshman year in college, he was at Vandy and, under the Vanderbubble. And the transition from high school into college, because he started touring at age 10. I mean, he was a kid that had been on the road his whole life. So he was having some adjustment issues. But that band and that record, My Chemical Romance, was kind of his lifeline through his freshman year. So, that was kind of the song that, the two of us, anytime I went and picked him up from his dorm, we'd crank that song in the car. So anyway.
I know exactly what you're saying, because it's like when I hear Prince's 1999, it reminds me of junior high.
It reminds me of making lots of money and no, just kidding. It reminds me of watching Prince make lots of money. And, and here's the thing, because first of all, Bell's never going to let me live this down. Because I made a comment. It was artistic license. I made a comment about how, I enjoy coming in and getting the chance to work with Bell because he, too, is a veteran of this business.
That's not the way you worded it at all.
Well, I'm a talk show host, so deal with it. Of course, I'm going to find a way to craft it because that's, kind of doing what I am, as they say. But anyway, and again, I was not a young man by the time we released that record. I mean, comparatively speaking, but I was in my mid to late 20s by the time we released that record. So I was like a 10, 12-year veteran of the business and, married. So, but I was getting paid. So it was all right. So here's the deal. Over the weekend, and actually it was while we were in on Friday, and I hate, politicians and political people do this all the time, where they will try to wait for a moment when no one is paying attention and, do a document dump or, release some in the case of a judge, a ruling that they've been sitting on, longer than an elephant trying to, have a baby. So this magistrate, this judge here in Nashville, with respect to the covenant, the writings of the shooter, one of the things that took place Friday is while we're all trying to enjoy the long weekend, Chancery Court Judge Aisha Miles found that the Covenant School children and their parents hold the copyright to any writings or other works created by shooter Audrey Hale. Now, I'm going to try to hold that one loosely because my head's going to explode if I get too deeply into what in the wide world of sports, how on earth are you going to connect those dissociative thoughts and try to, in some way, shape, or form, craft something that remotely resembles the law? The parents actually own somehow copyright was transferred when the Nashville Metro Police Department stopped her. So the judge released a critical ruling while no one was paying attention, which was pure cowardice. So I'm going to read a little bit. Most of the articles that came out were pretty scathing. And I'm talking about on both sides of the political spectrum. Nobody was really supportive of this approach because, well, let me read the article. So a Nashville judge's ruling in the Covenant school shooting public records case creates a disappointing precedent that further cements secrecy in how government operates. And that's exactly what it is. Chancellor Aisha L. Miles released her 60-page. What did she write about for 60 pages? It was just like stupid on its face, I'm sure, in the first 2 paragraphs. What is there to write about? Other than that's what people do when they know that they don't have a leg to stand on. So I'm just going to keep talking in circles until I somehow make this sound authoritative and credible. Well, no. So released her 60-page ruling at 11:58 Thursday on a federal holiday and created a new exemption. Listen, people, she created a new exemption to the Tennessee Public Records Act based on the notion that federal copyright law trumps state law. So how did Judge Miles create all by her bad self an exemption? Obviously, she's a big fan of Chief Justice John Roberts, who showed us all the way. Well, I don't want to be unpopular, and I don't want to be the one that history could possibly paint as anyone but a wonderful person. So I'm going to create law out of whole cloth. And Roberts did it in the case of the ACA. He created a tax where there was no tax. And voila! That's one of my favorite words here lately, by the way. I don't know how that happened. So this judge created a new exemption that evidently somehow is inclusive of the manner in which the owner of a particular copyright meets their demise. So, just to take a ridiculous thing to a more ridiculous place. So the judge claimed it's a copyright issue because the police shot her, so now the parents and the whatever own her copyrights. So does that mean that if Bella shot Taylor Swift later on this week, does that mean, could I claim her intellectual property somehow? How does this work? How on earth did she get there from here? So this has the potential to change everything in terms of how law is interpreted. But see, again, this is not the way it's supposed to work. We go all the way back to the founders. The founders said what they said. They meant what they meant. We're supposed to be upholding and defending the Constitution and making sure we keep, the car on the track and stay inside the lines. But people want to, reroute the track and repaint the lines. And so this is crazy. So anyway, transparency advocates. Let me find this article because this was an interesting one. Transparency advocates say that it sets a bad precedent, which clearly it does. Well, you know what? Let me just. It's the article's in the Nashville scene, so by all means go ahead and Google that article. But and I didn't know there were transparency advocates, but of course there are, because there are advocates for everything somewhere. But they say that it sets a bad precedent. Well, of course it sets a bad precedent. Because we're supposed to be a nation of laws and not men. So if government is functioning transparently, whether or not you personally are of the mind and influenced by the school of thought that somehow thinks that unstable people are influenced by other unstable people. And by the way, at the time of the shooting, I mean, I spent 2 days on this station talking about this and diving deep as we try to do. Located a professor in Georgia who's an expert on this. And he said it's absolutely false. The notion that copycats are influenced by these kinds of spree shooters or cause shooters, whatever the case might be. It's absolutely false. There's nothing to support it. But everybody's emotional capital is invested in this idea that, well, we just have to act like this never happened, and then it will never happen again. No, it'll happen again. Because evil hasn't gone anywhere, and crazy hasn't gone anywhere, and evil and crazy tend to hang out together. So, at any rate, in all of this, here's the phrase to remember. Here's the phrase to remember. In her ruling, embedded somewhere in those 60 pages, are the words, documents won't be released at this time. She's just trying to run out the clock so somebody else can do the right thing. And, she's going to try to, she thinks, keep her hands clean, but she's going to be a byword until Jesus comes, because this is just pure cowardice, tomfoolery, and skullduggery. In fact, do you have that audio clip, Val? Do we have the clip from Mr. Garvey? And, maybe we'll have to get back to that. We'll play that one coming back out of the break. But in the meantime, it's Dez in for Matt on the Monday after the lovely break. And we're going to take a break. WTN Super Talk 99.7. We're going to take a break. We'll be back.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lock boxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
Beryl now downgraded to a tropical storm, but it is still rather dangerous. Record heat in parts of the U.S. and Metro Police making a robbery arrest over the weekend. We'll update you at 1 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
So that was our special 99.7 correspondent, Mr. Garvey, with some additional commentary on Chancery Court Judge Aisha Miles' findings. Let's play that one more time, because I just think he was spot on. And there you have it. So, again, here's the key phrase. The documents won't be released at this time. Somebody with some sense is going to get the opportunity to make a ruling, and it'll be different. But at any rate, so again, Dez with you. Super Talk 99.7 WTN in on a Monday for Matt Murphy, who in turn is going to be in for Matt Wilson. No, he's not out on the boat.
Brian Wilson.
Brian Wilson, right. Brian Wilson.
I can't even remember who I work with.
We'll just go through the Wilsons until we've named every Beach Boy. That's how we'll handle it. But
Mike Love.
Mike Love, exactly. And, now it feels like a holiday. Doesn't it feel like a holiday? It does to me. So we got a lot of stuff to look at today. We've been gifted a lot of crazy things, but there's some things that as always, we're going to try to look at from a different angle. Same issues, different perspectives, because we are clear thinkers, and we understand that we're in the age of not right versus left, red versus blue, but reality versus unreality. So we're here to zealously contend for reality, and we'll be back to do so after the top of the hour. Dez Dickerson, 99.7 WTN. We'll be right back.
Good afternoon. It is 1 p.m. I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. We've got a mix of clouds and sun, 92 degrees on Music Row. A full forecast coming to you here shortly. Now, Tropical Storm Beryl slamming parts of Texas. The storm made landfall early this morning near Matagorda Bay, Texas. Here is Houston's Mayor John Whitmire.
We will not rest until every Houstonian, every community is served by the first responders, health, public works, and every service that a great city provides.
We now go from drenching rainfall to record heat, baking parts of the country with dozens of record highs tied or broken, mostly out west. Here's ABC's Dave Packer.
The mercury hitting 120 degrees in Las Vegas Sunday, breaking an all-time record.
We drank more water than I think we've ever drank before.
It was a Vegas wedding to remember for this couple.
Right now, we are sweating.
So we're getting pictures taken outside really quickly, back in the car with aircon. And then the venues are all air conditioned, so we can manage.
An excessive heat warning is forecast for the entire week.
Back here in the mid-state, Metro Police making a robbery arrest over the long Independence Day holiday.
Channel 4 says 33-year-old Lareya Jackson was arrested on July 5th. Bond was set at $150,000. She is accused of beating up and robbing a man on June 27th. Officers say they were called to a home on Trailwood Circle to reports of a robbery. The alleged victim telling officers he woke up to a woman hitting him with a gun and then tying him up with zip ties and taking his phone. Police say the man had cuts to his head. Ken Weaver, WTN News.
That is the latest news. We've got weather for you next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
Hey, it's Dan Mandis, and I am so glad that California Closets has fixed my closet catastrophe. After exact measuring and planning, they came over and got to work. Yeah, once it was all plotted out on their 3D CAD system, the pieces are measured, cut, and precisely installed into my space. It was clean, fast, and professional, and above all, my new closets look and function great. Now, this was my dormer, and now this is my new dormer thanks to California Closets. Look at all of this added space for shirts and shoes, you name it, and it is cut so precisely, simply amazing. And my old closet that has now been reborn as the ultimate in style and functionability, making the best use of the space that I had. They can work on just about anything: bedrooms, garages, home offices, closets, pantries, and so much more. Find them online, CaliforniaClosets.com, and see what they can do for you. You can schedule a free design consultation. Mention my name, CaliforniaClosets.com.
I had to run to the bathroom to get Dez. He's in the bathroom. So we're waiting on Dez.
Hey, man, it happens. You know, I mean, sometimes these breaks aren't long enough. You know, in music radio, you know, we can put on Free Bird or something. And,
I should have just thrown on Stairway to Heaven and sat back.
Hey, man, it happens. It happens.
Well,
goodness. You know, I tell you, it's been funny. Well, I guess.
Should we add some extra news to the
Well, I was going to say, it's been, you know, I keep seeing all this stuff here as I gather news stories. And boy, President Biden, man, he is just, you know, I guess they've given him a good shot of B12 or a lot of Monster energy drinks or something. But he has been making the rounds today.
Watching his energy level, though, is like watching an EKG.
Yeah.
It's up, then it's down. No, it's up, and down. It's down.
You know, but what's what's alarming is the fact that even when he is like on full bore, he still makes mistakes. So
yeah, and that's not just a stutter. That's a man who's trying to put thoughts together and failing at it miserably.
Yeah.
Here he comes.
Definitely. All right. Here he comes to save the day. Yes, here he is now. Ladies and gentlemen.
He's sitting down. His headphones are on. He's back.
And no, I was not abducted by aliens. But I will tell the story someday on an episode of Stranger. No. So, you know what? I mean, that's the first time in the decades that I've been doing radio that I've actually like gotten that far out of sync. But I'm back. And you know what I want to do? We need correspondent Garvey one more time. We just need to be brought back to earth that way. There you go. So
remember, Dez, the lead break is 8 bars, not 16.
Well, see, and that used to happen. Or, the drum solo, you just figure, dude's going to go on and on, so I can go to the men's room. No, actually, I can go to the snack bar. It used to be that way. And also, because everybody was high, their sense of the passing of time was significantly altered. But I digress. So, and in all seriousness, because of the fact that we're in this moment, this age of reality versus sun-reality, it's not just a political dichotomy or even an ideological dichotomy. The thing that we as clear thinkers have to keep in view is that, we have a responsibility. Because in part, and I'm going to be getting into this more later on today, this happened on our watch. This dumpster fire broke out while we were on the couch with the remote. So, there's a tendency to kind of get hung up on, so today Joe Biden came roaring back and he's not dropping out and it's important. But on the other hand, I'm kind of like, whatever, because that's going to be what it's going to be. And Joe's going to do what he's going to do. But while all of this is happening, culture and society and the rule of law are deteriorating at a more and more rapid clip. And some things won't change until you change them. Some things won't stop until you stop them. So we got stuff that we got to change, and we got stuff that we got to stop. And, there's a story, something that happened over the weekend that actually, even though it's got nothing to do with Joe Biden or anything else, for me, it brought this set of facts and principles into view. That things are rapidly deteriorating while we've got our eyes on the wrong ball. There's a young man named Kyrie Jackson who lost his life over the weekend. He was a defensive back, played for the Oregon Ducks this past season. And, if you've heard me on here before, I'm a football geek, and everything about, the draft and kind of tracking players on their trajectory in from college ball into the NFL. It's just, some people collect stamps. I watch that stuff. So this kid was somebody who had really jumped out for me during the draft process. And at the point, and I'm a Minnesota Vikings fan, everybody knows that. At the point where the Vikings selected him, I was over the moon. In fact, I felt, okay, this kid may end up being the steal of the draft. But his story is one of those stories that amazes and and makes you cry at the same time. But I'm going to read an article from ESPN over the weekend because Kyrie lost his life over the weekend. Minnesota Vikings rookie cornerback Kyrie Jackson and 2 former college football players were killed in a car crash overnight, according to Maryland State Police. Jackson was 24. Jackson died after a 3-car crash that occurred at 3:14 a.m. Saturday in Prince George's County, according to police. Isaiah Hazel and Anthony Litton Jr., the 2 former players who were high school teammates of Jackson's, were also killed in the crash. Police said Hazel was driving a Dodge Charger with Jackson in the passenger seat when their car was struck by an Infiniti Q50 attempting to change lanes at a high speed. The Charger left the road and struck multiple tree stumps. So according to police, Jackson and Hazel were pronounced dead at the scene. Litton was transported to a hospital before being pronounced dead by hospital personnel. Neither the driver, and isn't this the way it always goes, neither the driver of the Infiniti nor her 2 passengers, nor the driver of the 3rd vehicle was injured. Investigators, and now this is being upgraded since this was one of the first stories that was released. Investigators believe alcohol may have played a role in the crash. No, alcohol was at the center of the crash, and the Maryland State Patrol, they went out of their way to announce first thing this morning that they are vigorously investigating this case. So Jackson was selected by the Vikings in the 4th round of this year's draft and has been considered a contender to start at quarterback. Every single, because the kid spent some time in Alabama. I mentioned the kid spent some time at Oregon, and all his coaches were devastated. Dan Lanning is coach at Oregon, and he's obviously the Vikings coaching staff, the Alabama coaching staff, where he also spent time. People are devastated by it. He was an All-Pac-10 first-team selection for Oregon in 2023. And he's a kid that became an instant favorite among Vikings fans because of his journey from high school to the draft. He was a non-qualifier coming out of high school and spent 3 seasons at 3 separate junior colleges trying to battle his way into contention. And during the interim, he worked in the deli at a Harris Teeter grocery store. And at one point, won an award as the Employee of the Month. He told his mom at that point that, well, maybe I'm about to be working at a grocery store. Maybe I'll forget the football thing. But he ended up, he couldn't not go after it. It ate at him that he just wasn't giving it everything that he could. So he fought his way and clawed his way and made his way back. And he ended up saying, this is a quote, "I wouldn't change it for the world. I felt like it taught me a lot of perseverance. It helped turn me into the man that I am today. I feel like I don't take no shortcuts. I take everything for what it is and don't really question too many things. I feel like that mentality came from junior college and being at the bottom and seeing what it's like not having anything or having anything going to some top programs." So this young man's dead now. And I'm not going to go too deep into it, but, a friend sent me a screen grab that some industrious citizen journalist did early on of the young lady who is responsible for this. I don't even know that they have officially charged her, vehicular homicide, whatever the case might be. But, her feed prominently featured talk about being drunk and about alcohol. And I'm talking about, being drunk at 2 o'clock in the afternoon at the nail salon, that kind of thing. And so the culture is going up in flames. And people, young ladies are being assaulted and murdered by people who shouldn't even be here. They're not here legally. There are all sorts of telltale signs of where we are and what we've become. And it's not going to be the media that's going to change it. It's not going to be the politicians that are going to change it. Sorry, politicians. It's not going to be any of that stuff. Because ABC and NBCBS continue to prop up fake kings and fake issues, and the real tragedies have become our normal in greater measure. So it's not about social media posts and shares. It's about life and death. It's about the disposition of a nation and the outcomes of coming generations. Because we are in the midst of the most consequential series of crashes that the world has ever seen. And that's where we are, and that's what's at stake. So for us, for you, and for me, and what we're setting our kids and our grandkids up for, we're presiding over the trivialization of the fall of an entire civilization. Nero would be proud. So maybe, just maybe, it's time for us to put down the fiddle and take up the sword. Now, I'm not talking about the literal sword. I'm not advocating anything stupid, but I am saying that passivity is no longer an option. That sitting back and waiting for someone else to do it or to get it done, that's not the answer. Because you are the answer. You are the answer. Dez Dickerson on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
President Biden, well, he's doubling down on his Challenge Me tour. We'll also tell you about several thousand of the nation's most popular vehicles that are being recalled. We'll have those stories at 1:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Let's turn this up a little bit. There's a band called Nothing More. They're actually coming to town soon. Going to be at the marathon. This song there, man. As they used to say, if that don't light your fire, then your wood is wet. So, at any rate, and I want to mention too, because I am the witness protection radio show host, I'm not here all the time. And so in order for us to have a means of staying in touch and hollering back, you can find me on Facebook. And, I decided I don't want to do the 18 different, portals and platforms thing. No, you can find me on Facebook. Dez Dickerson is based. It's actually Dez Dickerson is biased, but it's a little play on words. Dez Dickerson is based. Follow, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. But it's how we can stay connected and connect other people. Because I'm about to dive deeper. It's about us. It's not about, and we've done that. We've done that as a nation. We've done that as a people, waiting for them to get it done. We elected them and sent them to Washington so they would get it done. Well, guess what? Most of them, what they got done is they got rich. That's right, I said it. Went to D.C., on a modest income and stayed in D.C. till they were fabulously wealthy. And, now there's a few fabulously wealthy people that are just running and, can't blame them. But I tell you all the time, stop waiting for them to do it, to change things, whoever they are. Politicians, elected officials, talking heads, whatever. Contend to reassert and reestablish reality and its tangible attributes in our lives, in our cultures, in the world around us, in our kids, our grandkids, our communities. Real quick, I got to go Bible for a second. In the Gospel of Luke, chapter 19, verse 13, Jesus is speaking in a parable, and he said, of the master in the parable, he said, so he called 10 of his servants, delivered to them 10 minas or 10 pounds, some interpretations, some translations say, and said to them, do business until I come. There's another translation that says, occupy till I come. Remember, occupy Wall Street, occupy till I come. So in that passage, Jesus imparts practical wisdom in the form of a parable. And the master in the parable distributes resources, tangible resources, and delivers a mandate. Occupy. Do business until I return. Instead of occupying until he returned, we merely just kept ourselves occupied. And the cesspool that is 21st century pop culture, as I said, it happened on our watch. And my biggest target of criticism in this is, again, most of you know, in addition to these other hats, I pastor a church. I don't exempt myself. I'm along with you. I'm at the center of the bullseye. We let this happen. Instead of being the church, we were just having church. Building bigger buildings and bigger parking lots and, adding on a wing so we can add more classes and And there's nothing wrong with any of that stuff. But if the needle's not being moved, and not only is the culture not looking more like the kingdom of God, but it's looking more like the kingdom of darkness, then guess whose failure that is? Because the Bible says the judgment begins at the house of God. Judgment doesn't begin at the House of Commons or the House of Pancakes or anywhere else. Instead of occupying until he came, we occupied ourselves. In the parable, the resources the master distributed, then assigned, he gave the assignment to us to do business with that stuff until he returned. But instead, we squandered it on ourselves. Not everybody. This isn't a blanket indictment. And there's nothing wrong with prospering. He expects a return on his investment. That's in the Bible too. But we focused on us. Or worse, we handed over to the cohort the resources that the master gave us. So we gave them the schools. We gave them the universities. We gave them the media resources, all of it. And the greatest wasted resource in all of this was time. Because we wasted time keeping ourselves busy and entertained rather than establishing, doing business until the master's return. See, you can lose money. Every hustler knows you can lose money and you can hustle harder and you can get the money back. But lose time and it's gone. We're going to take a break and then I'm going to continue down this road because we got some things, practical steps for us. Some roll up our sleeves for us that we're going to get to. Dez Dickerson on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back.
Good afternoon. It is 1:31. I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. A mix of clouds and sun. We're at 94 hot degrees. A complete forecast coming up. President Biden appearing on MSNBC's Morning Joe program this morning, insisting he is in the presidential race to stay. Here's ABC's Karen Travers.
A fired-up President Biden called into the MSNBC show Morning Joe and launched an aggressive defense of his decision to stay in the presidential race, saying the bottom line is he's not going anywhere. The president railed against, quote, elites, referring to people who've called for him to drop out.
If any of these guys don't think I should run against me, go ahead, announce for president. Challenge me at the convention.
The president said he beat Donald Trump 4 years ago and will do it again.
Ford is recalling up to 4,300 of its 2024 F-150 pickup trucks because the windshield may not have been bonded properly and could come loose. The National Highway Transportation and Safety Administration says it will notify owners this week. Signs of trouble include a lot of excessive wind noise and quite a bit of water leaking into your cab. The affected vehicles apparently were all produced during 1 week between April 28th and May 2nd of this year. That is the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Matt Murphy for Members Nutrition. I want to tell you about the Members Nutrition difference, and I want to encourage you to go over to the Members Nutrition website. Number one, they believe at Members Nutrition that they can sell vitamins and supplements at a lower cost point, and they're doing it every single day at membersnutrition.com. Number two, they want to make these products right here in the United States of America, not from some overseas company, and they do that every single day. I encourage you to go to membersnutrition.com. You'll get 50% off your purchase price at checkout. You don't have to put in any codes. Just go to membersnutrition.com. Once again, membersnutrition.com.
Yeah, let's turn that up and keep that going for a second. Okay, we can bring it down because he'll start using bad words in a minute. But, man, Seven Dust, I'm telling you, that band. And LaJohn, the singer, is from Nashville, so you need to, be proud of our homeboy there. But
it's almost like you throw a rock, you hit a singer or an entertainer in this town now that didn't used to live here.
It is so true. And LaJohn was here. He grew up here and then left before it was cool to be here. So he's one of those Atlanta guys now. But it's so true. But here's what's happening, though. And I don't know. I'm toying with the idea of maybe Thursday, having a Be a Tennessean segment because I haven't ranted about this for a while. I'm restraining.
Just for the record, you did move here before everybody else did, though. So let's just make sure.
I moved here in 1990. I've now lived in Middle Tennessee, primarily, initially Williamson and now Murray County. I've lived here longer than I lived in my hometown where I was born and raised. I've literally lived here longer than there. So, as one very nice lady told me several years ago when I was talking about having been here so long, she said, well, were you here before the Galleria? And I said, sure was. She said, well, honey, you are a native. So there you go. I'm a native. So during the Obama years, Rahm Emanuel, remember Rahm Emanuel? I in a way, I wax nostalgic for the days when, you could tell by the uniform folk were wearing what team they were on. One of the things I loved about playing football back, just before we got face masks, no, just kidding. But I loved that game, is the fact that if I spotted the other color jersey, they were fair game. Now, you got to keep your assignment, but man, I loved hitting people. Once I was in 8th grade, and in 8th grade, I had grown enough and everybody else not grown enough yet. I actually played linebacker when I was in 8th grade. And I hit this dude so hard that I broke the face mask off of his helmet. Broke his face mask smooth off and knocked him out cold. Hit him so hard that I gave myself double vision. And, it's fun trying to find the sideline when there's two of them. But I was out for a few plays, and they sent me back in. But kid was out for a long time. And it was the first time I had ever seen the ambulance driven out onto the field. And, I was concerned until they told me he was all right. But until then, it was like that. You played the game to take somebody else out at the time. But, you knew what team people were on. With Rahm Emanuel, you never doubted what team he was on. But he famously said, for a while he was, one of Obama's top, Chicagoland, gangland lieutenants. He famously said, never let a good crisis go to waste. Something goes wrong, something goes sideways. Now's the time for us to bust a move. Now, supposedly somebody else first said that in 1976, but I like the way Rahm Emanuel said it better. But it's time for clear thinkers, and we're clear thinkers. I stopped calling myself a conservative a while back because that term got co-opted, and we let it happen. So when people use the word conservative, the international sign of irrelevance is superimposed over our faces, the red circle with the line through the middle. And we're irrelevant because we're racist, sexist, homophobes, bigots, xenophobes, germophobes, whatever. But don't call yourself a conservative. Clear thinkers. We are clear thinkers. We're separating the clear thinkers from the Kool-Aid drinkers and making America think again. That's who we are. So it's time for clear thinkers to do likewise and not let the crisis of the present day go to waste. And there are at least 5 ways that you can move the needle. in your sphere of influence. And with respect to the upcoming election, you can change the electoral narrative. I was amused by the fact, I don't know if a lot of people caught this, but, in Biden's famous call-in, see, he had to get mad. He got, all of a sudden his lucidity came back when he got mad. But he said, he didn't say that I'm the best man to lead the country or anything along those lines. He said, I'm our best bet to beat Donald Trump. And that's telling. That's telling because the cohort has fought to keep the narrative focused on this hateful, enemy-centered, personal vendetta. Trump is the boogeyman. Trump is the problem. Orange man bad. For them, it stopped being about right or left. It became about Trump, and that was it. So the highest leverage change that we can influence, both collectively and individually, is to get Trump reelected, to do tangible things where we are, to get him reelected. See, the Biden debate fail, at least for a time, it seemed to reshuffle the deck now, and interestingly, Hunter Biden is the primary advisor in the White House right now. I don't know if you heard about that, but Joe is listening to Hunter, and he kind of came out like Hunter this morning. But all the staunchest Trump haters are at least partially in play right now. Remember Weebles wobble, but they don't fall down. Some folks are weebling, some folks are wobbling out there right now. And now is the time that you may actually be successful in making a case with folks that wouldn't have listened 2 weeks ago. Think about that. You can actually make a case. So I got 5 PowerPoints. And, I'm going to go ahead and jump into them before our next break. But I got 5 PowerPoints that need to be the flag that we carry. The number 1 PowerPoint in you being involved in moving the needle and changing people's minds is competency, number 1. Donald Trump has proven and demonstrated, and not just, since he got elected, but he goes back into his career as a young man. I just recently saw a video, and you know what? I'm going to get that clip, and we're going to play it at some point. But, he, in, I don't know, the late 80s, made comments. It's what he's saying now. It could have been a clip from 2024. But he's always been that guy. He never stopped being that guy. And going all the way back to when, every rapper wanted to have their picture taken with Trump and pose and all that stuff, to, then rappers doing videos where they're, simulating assassination or whatever. He's always been that guy, and it's his competency. What attracted people is this dude gets things done. This dude makes bank and he gets things done. His competency, that's a PowerPoint that you need to be using now. Because what people saw in that debate debacle is a competent man versus an incompetent man. And so the incompetent man, all he could say is, well, he lies. He lied 28. Well, that's what incompetent people do. They try to throw other people under the bus and try to point fingers. Competency. PowerPoint number 1. PowerPoint number 2. Proven economic track record. He's proven himself. Not just in his career as a businessman, but as president. The numbers from his first term don't lie. If you've seen that meme, and it's actually more than a meme. It's a chart. It's a comparison. It's kind of a T account. On the one side, here are the economic numbers from, 2016, 17, et cetera. And on the other side of the ledger, here's what's happened since. And if you've seen that, you look at things like gas prices and food prices, there's no denying it. There's a proven economic track record. Donald Trump as president brought us into unparalleled prosperity. Black people made more money. Asian people made more money. Hispanic people, everybody, that rising tide lifted all ships. And you need to be using that comparison like a weapon. Because that proven economic track record is a weapon. It's a PowerPoint we should be using. The third one, international thugs fear Donald Trump. Our memories can be short, but do you remember, Lil Kim, Kim Jong-un, Lil John, whatever, he came along and he smacked him down and shut him up. And it went from, I got nuclear weapons and I'm going to use them to, well, not so much. International thugs. Putin wasn't doing then what Putin's doing now. As much as people want to say, well, Trump is a Putin apologist and this and that. And they spent 3.5 years, all of them, Jake Tapper led the charge. Russia collusion, remember that? Russia collusion. No, international thugs feared Donald Trump then, and they fear him now. And that, to a great degree, that's why the snakes are stirring again, because they know, I don't know, that dude might come back, and our time grows short. So that's a PowerPoint to present to people, to let people know. Now the thugs fear him. And we got a couple more PowerPoints. I'm not going to go through all of them now. We'll finish them up when we come back from the break. But we have at least 5 PowerPoints. I've given you 3 of them that we need to use in winning friends and influencing people. And while some people are wobbled by this whole thing and the reality of the incompetence of the man that they threw in with, you got a shot. You got a chance. So, Dez Dickerson, 99.7, WTN, Super Talk. In for Matt Murphy, who's in turn going to be in for Brother Wilson, Mr. Wilson. And, we everybody's on the case. We're like a team that's got some injuries. But everybody's, next man up, everybody's stepping up. So we'll be back in a minute. Dez Dickerson be with you in a minute.
Eyebrows being raised at reports of a Parkinson's disease expert's recent visits to the White House. Outrage being expressed over a Boeing plea deal, and a man killed in a weekend motorcycle accident in Clarksville has been identified. We'll have those stories at 2 p.m. on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, WTN Nation, for letting me be myself again. I'm back in my lane, people. Back in my lane. So, we've been walking through these 5 PowerPoints of what we, clear thinkers, should be doing, the flag we should be marching under to influence people at a time where, for the first time in a while, there are folks that can be influenced. Folks that, had crossed you off. Then, they may listen for a second now. You got to be bold and stand up and speak up. But we got 2 more of our 5 PowerPoints we're going to come back to. We're headed into the clubhouse turn here. And when we come back into the 3rd hour, I'm going to continue down this path. Dez Dickerson, WTN, 99.7, Super Talk. Super talking at you. I'll be back.
Good afternoon. We're coming up on 2 p.m. I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. A mostly sunny sky. We've got 93 degrees now. A full weather forecast is on the way. A Parkinson's disease expert visited the White House 8 times over an 8-month span between last July and March of this year, including one visit with President Biden's personal physician. That's all according to the White House visitor logs. Here's ABC's Selena Wang with more.
We do not know exactly why he was visiting the White House. The White House will only say, quote, a wide variety of specialists from the Walter Reed system visit the White House complex to treat thousands of military personnel who work on the grounds. So essentially, this doctor could have been here for a variety of reasons.
In other news, families of the 346 people who perished in 2 737 MAX plane crashes, they are expressing outrage over a plea deal that was offered to Boeing by the Justice Department.
The deal requires Boeing to plead guilty to 1 count of conspiracy to defraud the U.S. in the certification of the 737 MAX and pay a total of $487 million in fines. Families of those who died in 2 737 MAX crashes say it's not nearly enough. A woman from England who lost her father calling the deal an atrocious abomination. And a Canadian man who lost his entire family, wife, son, daughters, and his wife's mom, calls it a deal that allows Boeing to go unscathed.
Back in Middle Tennessee, police have identified a motorcyclist killed in Clarksville over the weekend as 30-year-old Nicholas Smith, an active duty soldier at Fort Campbell. The motorcycle accident occurred on Ted Crozier Sr. Boulevard at Weatherly Drive at about 9:30 Saturday night. He was taken to Tenova Health Care in Clarksville for his injuries, but he soon passed away. That is the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
All right, clear thinkers. Stella's not the only one who got her groove back, y'all. I'm back in my lane and I'm feeling salty. And we got stuff to do. You know, I was thinking, it's hot and humid in Nashville. What a surprise. What do you expect? It's July. Now, my oldest son lives in his wife and our grandkids, they live in Arizona. And, we were talking over the holiday weekend. He was talking about how it's going to be 115 degrees in Arizona, where they are in Arizona this week. 115 degrees. I mean, that's great if you're making an omelet, but here's the thing, though. He said, 15 to 16% humidity. So it's hot, but as they love to say, it's a dry heat. We don't have dry heat. We have parboiled heat here. But anyway, I digress. So we're talking about the 5 PowerPoints that every clear thinker should be marching with right now. Our first 3 were, and these are PowerPoints for you and I to be part of getting Donald Trump back in office. Our first PowerPoint was competency. We got to be talking about his competency because it was on display. That's why we have the opening we have right now, because people saw competence versus incompetence head to head. Well, at least one head. I don't know what was happening with the other one. Competency. The second PowerPoint, proven economic track record. Donald Trump has a proven economic track record. All you got to do is hold up the numbers. Look, here's what gas prices were then. Here's what they are now. Here's what a loaf of bread cost then. You know, the $20 quarter pounder. It's not one of the things that the left was trying for a minute was make the case that inflation, it's because of corporate greed. Well, corporate greed isn't the reason that quarter pounder costs folks $20. It's Bidenomics. That's what it is. Proven economic track record. Number 3, international thugs fear Donald Trump. They fear him. Nobody fears Joe Biden. Nobody fears any Democrat. They're the reason that there's been an acceleration of the wildfire of nonsense in the world right now. Our number 4 PowerPoint, our next one. You got to let people know, what do you have to lose? Now, that's a line that President Trump himself used last go-around in appealing to black voters. And here's the thing. It's not that Donald Trump doesn't have to get 30 or 40% of the black vote to move the needle. All these guys, and he's been trending in the direction of more black voters becoming not just open to Donald Trump, but in many cases becoming staunch Donald Trump advocates. In the line that he himself used was, what do you have to lose? Well, that's got to be our mantra to folks. Look, what do you have to lose? You threw in with the biggest loser of all time in 2020. And you know it now. You know it. So do you honestly think that Donald Trump could be worse? Well, clearly that narrative has been thrown into chaos and disorder. What do you have to lose? And then our 5th PowerPoint, I love this one. True ugly brings into perspective mere differences. What do I mean by that? Well, folks foolishly talked themselves into the Biden beauty contest, and they got rope-a-doped into this hotel, motel, Holiday Inn with the worst closing time decision of all time. Well, he's got to be better. It's got to be better than, well, why? Only because of the hateful Donald Trump is the problem. Donald Trump is the enemy. Folks bought into that. But it's like, at closing time, the lights come on. And a lot of folks still ignored it. Lights came on and I don't know. At this point, true ugly brings into perspective what were really mere differences. Yeah, I didn't like his manner and his tweets were mean. And you know what, though? Dude's competent, proven track record. If you really start to look, forget the beauty contest. One of the things that I have been known to tell young people who, they're hung up on trying to find, just the right arm candy or, someone that's going to make me look good because they look good. You know what, though? I mean, I've been around for a minute. And the one thing I can tell you is, she might just look stunning at age 24. But hang on, because 34 and 44 and 54, those are all coming. So there better be more to it than what she looks like, because you're going to have to be in there for something other than the cosmetics. And at that time, it's about some perspective. It's about perspective. So here we go. And I know we got Tom in Kentucky holding. Tom, thanks for calling in. See, I told you I'm back in my lane. I mentioned Friday that, Matt is the king of, Matt comes on and the lines light up and folks line up to talk to him. For me, I'm more from that Rush Limbaugh school of, I'm going to be like the shark in Jaws, and I'm going to take the bait and I'm going to run deep and I'm going to take us somewhere. And so sometimes there's not a lot of room to open the dialogue and open the phone lines, but I do encourage you, as Tom has done, call in. If there's something that has resonated with you, call in. We'll talk about it. I'm happy to talk about it. But we're going to talk for a second, though, about this dissociative turn that the cohort seems to have taken. Democrats, they've pulled out the long knives. That was unexpected. A couple of weeks ago, especially. That was unexpected. But lo and behold, not only have they pulled out the long knives, but they're using them on each other. Here's an article from Politico. Over the course of his presidency, Joe Biden's small clutch of advisors have built an increasingly protective circle around him, limiting his exposure to the media and outside advice, an effort to manage public perceptions of the oldest person ever to hold the office and to tightly control his political operation. But inside the White House, Biden's growing limitations were becoming apparent long before his meltdown in that debate, with the team's senior management of the president growing more strictly controlled as his term has gone on. So during meetings with his aides who are putting together formal briefings that they deliver to Biden, some senior officials have at times gone to great lengths to curate the information being presented in an effort to avoid provoking a negative reaction. Well, that blew up. The wheels came off that train because you can't control it anymore. Here's a quote. It's like you can't conclude that will set him off, this will set him off, or put that in, he likes that, said one of his senior administration officials. It's like a Rorschach test. It's not a briefing. Because he's not a pleasant person to be around when he's being briefed. It's very difficult, and people are scared poopless of him. The official said he doesn't take advice from anyone other than those few top aides. And at this point, evidently, he's taking advice from Hunter. And it becomes a perfect storm because he just gets more and more isolated from their efforts to control it. So here's the thing. The headline of all this was, we've all enabled the situation. So I want to, before we get to our next break, I want to read an article from another article. A gentleman named Van Jones. And I actually know Van. I mean, like, genuinely, last time he and I had a conversation was at, there was a private memorial for Prince's family and closest friends. And Van and I actually had a really interesting conversation. So here's the thing, do Van and I agree on anything? Well, no, you'd be hard-pressed to say that. But I have always found him to be someone on the left who's not such a wild-eyed ideologue, even though openly he started out as a socialist, did time in jail and everything else. But you know what? Sometimes he speaks truth and makes sense. So here's what I want to read real quick before we break. Headline, this was in the Blaze. Van Jones tells CNN audience the truth about Biden that Democrats refuse to say publicly, that they are in full-scale panic. There's a lot more happening behind the scenes than Democrats have been willing to admit. So it goes on to say Democratic operative Van Jones alleged, I think this came out on the 4th of July. He alleged that Democrats are not being honest, you think, about what is happening behind the scenes in their party. In the days after the abysmal debate performance, Democrats have used the mainstream media to defend Biden from calls that he step aside as the party's presidential nominee. We're going to be talking about that, too, as we get deeper into the week. Because it's not like, you turn in the keys and lease another car. It doesn't work that way, and we'll talk about that some. But according to Van Jones, there's a much different conversation that's now happening privately in the party. Well, the conversation that's happening on TV, at least they tried to do this, has been to focus on whether Biden steps down. Jones revealed the true conversation in the party is about how to transition from Biden to a successor. Well, again, that's not as easy as turning in the keys and getting a different car. He said, I'm going to be honest. Everybody comes on air and says all this great stuff, but behind the scenes, it's a full-scale panic. People are passing around legal memos. PDFs are flying back and forth on WhatsApp, trying to figure out what are the options. How can you replace Biden? How do you get him to do it in a way where he feels respected, as he should be respected? Who should Kamala Harris's vice president be? Now, see, I'm sorry, but I just savor the insanity of all of this. Because, let's try to transition from a dumpster fire sitting president to the most unpopular and least like vice president in centuries. How are you going to do that? How are you going to put lipstick on that pig? And I'm not calling her a pig. I'm just saying, how are you going to do that? Do you remember? Our memories are so short. Do you remember that she was the first one to have to drop out? Remember that their whole primary system, and she was the first one to have to drop out because she could get no votes from her own party. So let's make her president now. That'll work. Let's do that. That'll work. So again, I'm savoring this as this goes on. So here's the question: is this dissociative turn of the cohort real? And what I mean is this: they went from anybody but Trump to now anybody but Biden. Well, is this real, or is it just simply utilitarian? Is it genuine? Is it short term? Is denial actually giving way to acceptance? Well, we'll find out, won't we? So here's what we're going to do. Hang on a second here. We're going to, we're going to do this. We're going to take this call from Tom in Kentucky and see what Tom has to add to the conversation. Tom, come on board. Tom in Kentucky. Sign in, please. That's all right. I'm a patient man. I want to hear. Tom's been holding patiently. I want to hear what Tom has to say. Yeah, because I love it when people call in. Because there's not a whole lot of space to get a word in edgewise sometimes. So, we got.
Ready to go to break?
Well, we can. I just wanted to see if I could fit in Tom's call before we go to break.
Oh, my bad.
No problem.
There
Tom,
you go.
Tom,
Hello?
Yeah, Tom, we're here. Come on in.
Okay, how you doing?
I'm doing well.
Hey, I agree with everything you're talking about, but we live in America, and our biggest problems is we don't remember what happened 5 years ago, much less is what's going to happen 4 years. Our people need to look at, if Biden's that bad now, what will he be like in 2 or 3 years from now?
Yeah.
If he happens to win. That is where the big catastrophe would hit.
And that's where people, I believe, are suddenly open to, well, maybe the narrative's been wrong.
Yeah.
Because we do live in America.
Yeah.
For now.
Yeah. I agree.
All right, Tom. Well, we appreciate your call. Thanks for adding to the conversation. And now I took us a little bit past break. We are going to take a break now, and we're gonna keep talking about this dissociative turn that the unreality cohort seems to have taken. But remember, unreality is the operative word. Dez Dickerson, Super Talk 99.7, WTN. We'll be back.
President Biden continuing to adamantly express he's not going anywhere. And several thousand of the nation's most popular vehicles are being recalled. We'll have those stories at 2:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Yeah. There's something magical about tuning down a guitar, isn't there? Just something that, kind of sets you free. So we're talking about, this turn that the unreality cohort seems to have taken. And the turn keeps turning because it's changing on a daily basis. But you can't put this ketchup back in the bottle. So it's interesting, and it's about to get more interesting. But I wanted to read from an article that was in Fox. Now, this is from a couple of days ago. So this was before, the infamous Biden call-in to Morning Joe this morning. But 2 days ago, here's the headline. Morning Joe urges Democrats to take a deep breath on Biden and not make a hasty decision. And this is probably why, Joe called into his show. So remember now, lest we forget, Joe Scarborough initially was the token conservative on, MSLSD. And then, like everybody else, he fully came out of the closet and just let his TDS run wild. But here's what he had to say. Again, prior to the call-in. Morning Joe co-host Joe Scarborough called on Democrats to, quote, take a deep breath and, quote, honor President Biden by not demanding that he drop out of the race yet. 1 week after he said it was Democrats' last chance to decide if Biden was fit for office. Let's be smart. Let's take a deep breath. And let's understand it's only July the 5th. What a difference a weekend makes. Such an historic decision should not be made in haste. I love that. Joe talking about not doing something in haste. He said on his show last week, Friday, returning to the airwaves for the first time in a week after a planned vacation. I don't know if I buy that. I think after the debate, he went into a deep depression and, curled up into a ball in the fetal position. And he had a vacation plan. No, he had a full-on psychotic break, I'm sure. But that's neither here nor there. No doubt there's panic all around. I said 8 days ago that the president needed to consider getting out. Said we needed to give it time, needed to see what's going to happen. And I think we're still there, Scarborough said, of the backlash the Biden campaign is facing following last Thursday. This was last Thursday at the time, the disastrous debate performance. It's July 5th. This happened 8 days ago. And decision time is not yet upon us. Well, I don't know. Seems like decision time might be upon him. So we'll find out. But we're going to keep diving deep with this. Going to take a break here at the bottom of the hour, heading toward the clubhouse turn. And I'm trying to provoke everybody to greatness. Trying to provoke the clear thinkers into greatness and into action. Dez Dickerson on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Going to take a break. We'll be right back.
Good afternoon. It's 2:30. I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. We've got a partly sunny sky. It's hot, 95 degrees on Music Row. We'll get you that steamy forecast and a little wet as well. That's coming up. President Biden airing his frustrations with those that have been demanding he leave the presidential race. Today on MSNBC's Morning Joe, the president defended his record, calling for critics to hit the campaign trail with him and dares anyone who wants to challenge him at the upcoming Democratic National Convention to do just that.
I'm not going to explain any more about what I should or shouldn't do. I am running.
Ford is recalling up to 4,300 of its 2024 F-150 pickup trucks because the windshield may not have been bonded properly and could come off the truck. NHTSA says it will be notifying owners this week. Signs of trouble would include things you would expect: more than usual wind noise and water leaking in. The affected vehicles apparently were all produced during one specific week from April 28th to May 2nd of this year. That is the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
That's what I'm talking about. Seven Dust. I love it. Well, what can I say? I love it. And for me, a big part of setting the tone on talk radio is it's the music. It's the music. We're not, not playing Chumbawamba. I Get Knocked Down. Hey, great song, great hook. But we're not playing Chumbawamba. We're playing Seven Dust. So, talking about this dizzying pivot that the unreality cohort seems to have taken, over the course of the last week or so. And I talked about this, I touched on this on Friday while I was trying to be nice on Friday. But one of the first people to break rank was Jake Tapper. Debate moderator, Jake Tapper, Russia collusion, Jake Tapper. Jake Tapper, who on more than one occasion attempted to draw parallels between Donald Trump and Hitler. Now, remember when if during the Obama administration, if anyone dared to intimate that there were similarities between Barack Obama and Hitler, they were tarred and feathered and racist. You're a well, interesting how all that can turn around. So I want to share something from a Tapper, interview, proclamation, whatever, last week when he was the first one to break rank about this whole thing. Headline, and again, this was from The Blaze. Jake Tapper whips out George Orwell quote. That's the Pope calling the Catholic black right there. But anyway, George Orwell quote to warn Americans about the Democrat Party's tactics. Make no mistake, he said. I think he's made a lot of mistakes already. But so CNN anchor Jake Tapper accused the Democrat Party last Monday of engaging in Orwellian tactics to mislead Americans about President Joe Biden's mental acuity. Now, I've been recommending this for a while, but if you've never read 1984, and even more so Animal Farm, if you've never read them, you need to go back and read those. If you read them at whatever point in time, you need to go back and you need to just reread, because Orwell is spot on about so many things. And Orwell, he wasn't a conservative, but he was a clear thinker and he was a visionary. So, Tapper accused the Democrat Party of engaging in Orwellian tactics. At the opening of his show, Tapper called out the Democrat Party for engaging in a, quote, discernible pattern of lying to the public. Sorry, I'm trying to contain myself. He argued that party officials want Americans, quote, to not believe what you saw and what you heard with your own eyes and with your own ears during the debate. So then, after playing a clip of Biden struggling to answer a question at the presidential debate, and he was there, Tapper quoted author George Orwell to warn his audience about the Democrat Party's tactics, of which he has been a chief proponent and lead dog for so long. But anyway, Democrat officials have tried to spin this in many ways. You think? But behind the scenes, rather, make no mistake, most Democrat officials witnessed the same shocking spectacle that you did. The difficulty that the presumptive Democratic nominee, the current president of the United States, had just articulating his basic thoughts during the 90 minutes of the debate. The spinning is all very reminiscent of George Orwell. And the quote from 1984, the quote which Tapper said is relevant today is this: the party told you to reject the evidence of your own eyes and ears It was their final, most essential command. Now, again, the irony, get out the duct tape and duct tape your head so they don't explode. The irony is unbelievable. Because what did CNN spend the last 3.5, almost 4 years doing? This very thing. But, the article says the power of the quote cannot be understated. Well, yeah, because the reality is that this is the tactic that the unreality cohort in general, but CNN and Jake Tapper in specific, employed and utilized nonstop. Don't believe your lying eyes and ears. Listen to what we're saying. Trump is bad. Biden is good. Trump is bad. Biden is good. Well, again, so the dystopian world of Orwell's 1984 and so-called party enforces its version of truth on people. In that world, 2 + 2 = 5. War is peace. Freedom is slavery. What does that sound? Who does that remind you of? So again, there's this dizzying turn, this dizzying pivot that some of the foremost voices of the unreality cohort seemingly overnight took. And now we're supposed to believe. Don't believe your lying eyes and ears and what we were saying before. Believe me now, Jake Tapper says. The Democrats have been pulling an Orwellian stunt on you this whole time. All righty then. So, what's next? And obviously, we're going to continue on into tomorrow. I'm with you tomorrow. I'm with you again Thursday. And we're going to keep We're going to keep diving into this because it's a fascinating time. And again, there are PowerPoints for clear thinkers to utilize aggressively right now. In the tradition of Rahm Emanuel, do not let this crisis escape unused. Yes, clear thinkers, we need to do that. We need to take Rahm Emanuel's advice and not let this crisis go to waste. Because make no mistake about it, the Democrat Party is in crisis. And more importantly, the party is the party. But it's the constituents, it's the people, it's those who spread the virus of Trump derangement syndrome. That's really the Democrat Party and Biden. And you have to, in a weird, twisted way, give him credit because he, obviously on the advice of his people, he went full on after trying to take the party as woke as he could take it. And trying to take every single, trope of the left and turn it into a battle cry, whether it was, abortion, whether it was immigration and, dividing families, whatever the case might be. We can't let this go to waste. It's time for clear thinkers to go on the offensive, not to be offensive, but certainly to be smart. So there's a little bit of time left. If anyone wants to try to call in and get a word in edgewise on this conversation before we end this hour, I'm going to take a break right now, one more break before we close up shop. It's Dez Dickerson in for Matt Murphy, who's going to be in for Brother Wilson later on as we all kind of move seats. We shift over one seat here. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Dez Dickerson, good to be with you. And want to remind you one more time before I go to break. You can connect with me on Facebook. Dez Dickerson is based. Dez Dickerson is biased. Dez Dickerson is based, but log on, follow, share it with other people. Because these 5 PowerPoints, we need to be spreading these far and wide. So let's get in touch. Let's stay in touch. You know, I'm the Witness Relocation talk show host. So I'm here for a couple days this week, but then who knows? I might be in, Taos, New Mexico, fixing shoes or something. And who knows when we'll be together again. So join us there, and we'll keep connected. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Let's take a break. I love that clip. I love that movie, but there's something about that. It just fits. Closing time, there's some Minneapolis guys right there. And I hope the force is strong with Dan's mailbox money from that song. I'm sure it is. So, we're about to wrap this up. And I just realized there's a clip that I got to grab. And I'll make sure we have this tomorrow. And it's actually a reuse of a reuse, but the song Cult of Personality, Living Color, classic. At the beginning, there's a clip, and I can't remember who it came from, but it starts out now in the few moments that we have left. Let's break it right down in a language everybody here can understand. So there's one thing I want to touch on before we wrap up today. And, I've got to at least briefly comment on the George Snuffleupagus interview. Because clearly the knee-jerk was, okay, we're going to have to do something, so we're going to get him in, with some friendly fire and get him in with George Snuffleupagus, and we're going to do an interview, and we're going to salvage this. Really? Was it too little, too late? Or, was it just a glance down at the sidewalk? What was it? So I want to read 5 takeaways. This is from The Hill. From President Biden's big interview with George Stephanopoulos. And again, this was from a couple days ago, which feels like a couple of years ago now. Things have developed at such a rapid clip. But here's the article. President Biden gave the most important interview of his career Friday. He spoke to George Stephanopoulos for 22 minutes during a campaign trip to Wisconsin. And I'm from Minnesota, so that's a whole other thing there. But here's the bottom line. We don't need the takeaways. The attempt at the interview that was going to save it all failed. It just failed. It didn't work. It didn't happen. And at the end of the day, clearly it was too little too late because of all that's transpired since, culminating today in Joe calling in with Hunter. And I'll bet you if you could take the audio and kind of do the FBI EQ trick, you could probably hear Hunter in the background. Hey, and then say this, and then say this. It's just like, it's the blind leading the naked, because Hunter Biden now being your chief strategist, that's an interesting approach. But at any rate, it's been good to be with you. Felt good to get my groove back today. Going to be with you again tomorrow here on Super Talk 99.7. We look forward to it. We'll see you then. Until then, clear thinkers, mount up. We'll see you tomorrow.